Storytellin Jordan.
So we want you to rock with us. Storytellin Jordan right here. We got Dubem, we got Stephen, Odizzle over here. What should we be looking for, like when it comes to looking for a church? Dubem, I know you kind of similar to me. Like we've had church at homes, but like over the past few years, we've kind of been like searching somewhere else. So what are like some deal breakers? Like you got your black things, you got your white things, and there's like personal preferences. But honestly, like sometimes I be thinking like God, like doesn't care about that stuff. He just wants us to be somewhere. But like, what would you say like a deal breaker is like when it comes to like you looking for a church?
So for me, the biggest thing is discipleship, and it's almost like a issue where I'm at personally. I can't settle for just like showing up to a pew on Sunday and talking with people for 5 minutes and going home. Like discipleship in terms of doing life with people. Like, because what tends to happen is that people get saved, but then there's no one that can like take them under their wing, so then they fall away. So I think a strong discipleship structure where not only are you seeing people in church, but you're actually doing life with them, and you actually get to glean and learn from people, because that's how you grow. Like I've been getting discipled for the past several months, and I've honestly felt like I've grown in the past 7 months more than I have in like the past 5 years of just regular church. And so, yeah, discipleship and people who actually want to do life with you and who want to get to know you for you and not what you can offer and provide. So,
Steph, you got saved in college. That was when you first got your experience with Jesus Christ. When you came back home to Columbus, you came to Linden Life. Like, why was that? And you're still there to this day, and you work in the AV booth. Like, what was it about Linden Life that drew you near to that church? And like, what is it about it that you like?
The worship was fire. It's like, no, I'm playing. That's what everybody be saying. But no, it really was. But I think like piggybacking off what Dubem said. So like you said, I came to Christ in college, and how I did that was just like literally in the dorm room, kicking back, like half sleep, listening on Bible studies, but just being around my homies, you know what I mean, who were believers at the time. They were football players, big bulky meatheads, like just dudes that loved each other well and different than I was used to. And like we would just sit and talk about the word. We would sit and just sometimes even listen to music, like Christian music. And it was kind of like laid back like that. So where I'm going is that like discipleship and community, and seeing like having that opportunity, that availability to do so, like for people to be accessible, like Dubem said, not just a one-time Sunday production thing. Like that's not how I came to Christ. Like that's not how, I don't know. That's just not my desire. You know what I mean? As far as like having everything built into one Sunday. And as of recently, that's been like reestablished too, just the way we do church at Linden Life. I mean, I'm seeing the importance of like just like community and real life accessibility to people, and not just convenience, not just the show or whatever. So I think that's a key thing for me, is just doing life with people, being able to sit with people, discipled and be discipled. And also too, I know not every church is like this, but we're a local church, so we like are very involved in the community, and that's important for me too. You know what I mean? To get your hands dirty a little bit and get out there, meet people, know people, and not just being some place that like the needs are met, I guess, differently than what I thought they needed, I guess, in a sense, from a church. I think like just being present in the community is huge, and not like that in the body. Like it might not be always what traditionally you might think a church may provide, but just being an ear, having your doors open, coming in, talking, giving people rides, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So those are the few things I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys. Like, I feel like for me, it comes down to the word. Like, do they preach the word? Do they interpret it the correct way? Like, not like gray areas, but do we have like the same views when it comes to like sex, when it comes to, you know, the specific sins? Like, we're supposed to like be separate from the world. So like, it comes down to that. It comes to worship as well. I'm really big on worship and community. I really love like, I've been in a season for a long time of like wanting to be around young adults. And like I mentioned before, Linden Life, like I attended Linden Life in 2015. And what drew me to that church, like was the fact that it was so diverse. Like you had like half white people, half black people, you had young people and old people. But like what really got me was like I seen all these people in their like late 20s, early 30s that like were working adults. But at the same time, they were on fire for Christ. And I could just see myself like learning from them and being discipled from them, as well as people my own age, like doing life with them. So that's why I spent like, 3 years of my life at London Life. I met you, Steph, in the AV booth, and like we held it down. But like just over the years, like unfortunately, like there were some issues with the, the pastors at the time that kind of made some division in the church. And then just like one by one, different young adults would leave. Like they would go to college, they would get a job in another state. And like I just like found myself like without many young adults to do life with besides Steph, which was cool. Like obviously we're roommates now, but I'm like, man, I need some more young adults in my life. So pretty much like when I went away to Cali for a couple months and came back, I never returned to Linden Life as a member, and I kind of been searching for that home ever since. Like I was like everywhere from Hope City, because I knew a lot of people at Hope City, all these young black adults. That's where I really wanted to be. But like I never like felt perfect peace being there. I tried it out for like 4 months. I never felt perfect peace, and I love Hope City, but like I didn't feel led to be there. So I tried Rock City out, which I consider Pastor Chad from Rock City my favorite pastor. Like he does not compromise. Like he has like the fade, the he be wearing J's. He's a very like popular guy, but at the same time he'll be real, but he'll say it with grace and love, but he doesn't compromise, and I respect that. But like one thing about Rock City is just like, man, like one, there's not a lot of black people there besides Pat. Like Pat is one of our good friends. Patrick Crawford, who's a musician, by the way, you can look him up on Spotify, Apple Music, a little plug. But like, that's one of my good friends, and like we were clowning and stuff like that. But like you guys said, discipleship is very important, and I didn't have that there. So like, I tried out one church. I was very excited about one church. I was doing videography for them, and it was cool. It served a role. But like one of the things, and this is in no way bashing anybody there. I love one church, but one of the things I was noticing, they have more black people than Rock City, but it still was not a lot. And the young adult group that I was attending at the time, like they were very younger than me. I'm 29. A lot of people there was like in their like early 20s, and I noticed a lot of them were kind of like they weren't as mature as me, and that's not what I'm used to. Like I'm used to Linden Life, Terrell Carter, disciple of me, you know what I'm saying? Tony, disciple of me, like all these people. And now I'm in a situation where I'm like the top guy, well, one of the top guys spiritually, which is cool. But I feel like God was maybe calling me to help these people and like be more of a spiritual leader to some of the guys. But at the end of the day, I felt like it wasn't for me. And now, I'm at Garden City. I feel like this is a good place for me to be at. It's a young black pastor that I can talk to. He can give me advice about certain things. I think they're biblically sound. There's a lot of opportunities for me to grow in my gifts as well, as like getting outside of my comfort zone. But you, Dubem, like talk about, like I know you're kind of similar to me. Talk about like some of the reasons why you've been kind of like, you don't have to get into like too much specifics, but like talk about some of the reasons why you kind of been like looking for a church over these past few years and a little bit more about discipleship and things like that.
Yeah. So for me, because I'm not, I definitely don't like to church hop. So the past two churches that I've been at like a significant amount of time at. But one thing that I really look for, and it sounds kind of like odd, but a church that actually preaches the gospel. Because what I realize is that you could preach the Bible, and that's different from preaching the gospel. Like there's people who preach their faith from like an Old Testament perspective, but then there's people who preach from like the finished work of Christ. And like that makes all the difference, because a lot of times people get trapped into this orphan like religious mentality where it's almost like their faith is contingent upon their works, where they're in a constant hamster wheel of doing works to try and get a result. Like their relationship with God is very transactional. And oh man, again, I'm really not trying to knock anybody's like convictions. There's this thing that I came across called Nazarite Gnosticism. And I can explain. So it's almost like this self-empowered, high octane, super zealous approach to the faith where like you throw out your secular CDs. I'm not going to touch alcohol. I'm not going to touch the unclean thing. I'm not going to do this. And what I realize is that a lot of people that adhere to that end up backsliding severely because there's an underlying sense of self-righteousness that's undergirding their faith, and that's not sustainable. But I feel like the antidote to that is actually understanding the gospel, understanding that you're in union with Christ, understanding what the finished work of Christ is, understanding the inheritance you have as a son of God. Like, even with secular music, I remember when people were like, oh, don't listen to this, don't listen to that. The more they told me not to do that, the more I actually listened to it. Like, the more I wanted to. But then there's something different about when my desires actually change. And it's not a matter of me not doing it. It's like, I don't want to listen to that. And I feel like that ties into an understanding of the finished work of the cross. So yeah, finding a place that preaches the gospel is imperative, I feel like. And a place that doesn't cause your Christianity to be the biggest source of stress in your life. Yeah.
Earlier today, we were talking about a church. We don't have to name that church, but what were some of your issues with that church?
When I thought of that, when Jordan brought that up, it kind of re-emphasized what he was saying about finding things that you believe, like biblically, like they're preaching what you believe biblically. And I didn't say that because I thought it was a given, but there might be some areas that you might just think that maybe all believers believe. If you say you're a Christian, you might think some things are a given, but you might find that out, like, nah, we on two different pages. And that's something pretty important that you might hold weight to. And so I think like what Jordan was saying is like, yeah, you need to make sure that, you and your pastors and your leadership are on the same page about what the Bible says. And that was something that I learned from just, sitting in different situations. So
this is not to knock anyone's political spectrum, but there's a tendency to like reorient the gospel to be more seeker friendly or digestible. And that's a very dangerous game because then it loses its power to transform. So what you do is that you have unconverted people who come to church and they feel good. And they just remain that way. It's like, there's like, nothing changes. It's like, I can have God and I can smoke a little something and drink. And it's like, and I've noticed this from a lot of Christian culture where people get into arguments like, well, can I be a Christian and do this? And it's like, the fact, like, that's just even the wrong paradigm because Christians overseas aren't thinking about self-preservation. They're not like, how much can I get away with? Like, they abandon everything for the faith. But I feel like here in American Christianity, we have the luxury to even entertain that because we're not really preoccupied with living out the gospel because the church machine has created a country club.
Yeah, persecution in other countries, like they're literally going to jail or like risking their life. And our persecution is like we think people don't want to be our friends or are gonna think we're weird. Like we got to twist it. But kind of going back off of what you said about like people not changing. Sometimes like the pastors do say stuff and people get convicted. Like for instance, Chen said like, oh, that one hurt. Like that convicted me. You want to get some pizza? And like you like you don't change. Like I don't know. Like. What do you think, like, I don't know, what we talked about is kind of like for more so mature believers, but like, what do you think like a new believer to the faith kind of should look for in a church? Like if you kind of think it's what you already said, it's cool. But like, if you have anything else, like what would you say?
Dang, man, not a deacon or bishop, but no, from my own experience, I'm just going to say discipleship, man. For me, and this is just like some serious self-reflection. When I looked in the mirror, I said, bro, there was a time where I got saved. Oh, my bad. It's a time where I got saved and I feel like I didn't grow after that. You know what I mean? There was something that became evident when I got back home, when I wasn't in that bubble, I went to a Christian college. I wasn't in that Christian bubble and some things became very apparent that there was some, I guess you can call them gaps or holes or just, it was leaky. My foundation is a little bit leaky. So I'll say discipleship. I kind of like stayed at the level I was, and that's no knock to the people that was there, but it kind of is at the same time. Like, y'all, like you have to help a new believer get their feet under them. And I feel like you should look for somebody, like Dubem was saying, who's going to walk with you, who's going to not only teach you things, but walk with you, walk things out. And be hands-on, you know what I mean? So I think like look for that. And sometimes a lot of that is proactive too. Like it's a two-way street. You got to identify somebody, and sometimes you got to formally ask. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you fall into relationships naturally. And that's how it was for me at Linden Life. And that's what like I agree with Jordan when I said like I love Linden Life because of that too. That was one of the things that drew me there. But I think, you gotta sometimes actively seek that out and be like, yo, I need discipleship. Like it doesn't stop here. I need to grow and actually figure out what walking this thing out looks like and take it from, the text to actual like your life and get practical about it. So
and you got to be around people that you can relate to. Like a lot of people that are unsaved, they think of church as like hymns and old white people and things like that. But like, whenever I even today, even though I have a home, like a lot of times, like when I recommend a church to like a non-believer or a new believer, like I'll tell them to go to Rock City because I know their mind's going to be blown when they go up in there. Like they're going to go in there, they're going to see a bunch of like young white and people really of all races, but mainly white, like wearing like the skinny jeans and the t-shirts and stuff like that. The guitars, it's not going to be what they expect. And what I love about Rock City is Pastor Chad feeds the mature believer, but he also explains the gospel in a way that a non-believer could be saved as well.
Yeah, I think explaining the gospel, like actually preaching the gospel, that lays a good foundation for new believers. Because I think a phenomenon that happens is that a lot of Christians start off like very zealous and they like hit rock bottom, and then they actually learn the gospel all over again, and they realize, oh crap, what I was adhering to wasn't the gospel. That, and then actual community and people who don't feel inconvenienced by facilitating community. Because sometimes I've run into situations where I want to like actively seek out people to disciple me or like do things with, and it can come off as like, oh, well, we had a 30-minute conversation, discipleship done for the year. And it's like, no, somebody who actually wants to pour into like non-believers or people who are just younger than them. And I even can attest to, there was a season where I needed that community because I was coming into college, it was just like compromise all over. And it's hard when you don't have that community because you feel like you're just kind of in between. And so,
yeah, I agree. Like you said, like when you're reaching out to be discipled, and like when they show that interest, that's a game changer. Like when I knew for sure I wanted to like, attend the church I'm at, the Garden Project, because like several people kept hitting me up, like Jordan Dunlap, who's a friend of mine, Doug Thorpe hit me up, Ricky hit me up, all these different people hit me up. So I checked it out. And we were in a pandemic, and Steph knows like I'm real conservative when it comes to that. So like I attended once, I'm like, I'm cool until like these cases die down. But like I knew I wanted, like when I knew for sure like this is going to be the place I wanted to be, I reached out to the pastor on Facebook, and he was like so quick to reply. He was like himself initiating like a time and date to meet up and to get lunch, and it just happened so quickly. And like the fact that he made that, that effort to have interest in my life, like was really a game changer for me. But yeah, it was a good talk tonight, guys. Like, thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Storytellin Jordan.